Welcome, friends, to Inks and Issues, a podcast where we do in-depth discussions on a single comic book. I'm your host, Jonah Gregory, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Kieran Bennett.
My name is Kieran, and let me tell you, there are a couple of gods that I'd like to blow it with my Godbomb, if you know what I mean.
Wow, spicy in here.
It's Thor. It's Thor.
Okay. And
Thor is hot.
We have our returning guest host from last week, Tim Lanning. Welcome back.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be back and chatting about ye old Godbomb.
Yes.
Thanks for coming back, Tim.
Yeah.
Hey, anytime. Yeah, it's a little late where I am, so if I get loopy and lose my train of thought or just laugh really loud, that's why.
It's all good.
That's all good.
So this time we're going back to the Thor well and talking about Volume 2, Thor God of Thunder, Godbomb, which...
Godbomb.
Yay or nay on this being a good name?
Yay.
It's the best name.
Yay.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't ever name a comic ever again unless you're just going to call it Godbomb. Like, just, Naruto Volume 26, Godbomb.
Yes. I was just kind of surprised because it was like the God Butcher or something on Volume 1, and you're like, whoa, that's intense sounding. And then this one is like Godbomb, and you're like, is that a early 2000, late 90s, like, screamo band, or what's happening here, Thor? But yeah,
Hey everyone, we're Godbomb, and this is our latest song. I'm an atheist in my mom's basement.
So the running joke with me and my brother, because it happened at an actual, like, concert that our friend's band played at, one of the opening bands, I don't even remember what their name was, but they're like, here's our song, Broken Jaw, and it's like, like that super deep, like, metal screaming, like you can't understand a word they're saying. And
oh my god.
It was amazing. So now every time we're gonna, do anything, it's, here's our song, Broken Jaw.
That's funny.
But I think we're going to kind of just get right into it this week, since we are doing a continuation from last time. So this volume was written by Jason Aaron with the returning artist Asad Ribic. Sorry if I'm butchering that name, but your art is amazing.
I like to think that all the artists and writers that we talk about do listen to this podcast just to hear how we pronounce their names. And if we get them wrong, they just
turn it off, unsubscribe.
Yeah. They have a Google alert, but for audio of when people fuck up their name.
Yeah.
Yes. And then pencilers were Butch Gucci? I'm sorry. I'm not sure. And inker Tom Palmer, letterer again VCs. I don't know what that means. Joe Sabino. So is VC's the first name? Is that a title? You tell me, Joe, because I want to know what that means. But yeah, this is the continuation of where we left off. Previously, we saw, actually, I'll just read the previously from, directly from the book. In a crusade spanning millennia, a creature known only as Gore, the God Butcher, has vowed to kill all deities across the cosmos. After numerous encounters with Thor over the centuries, the God Butcher has finally revealed the horrific endgame to his mad quest. But who is the strange being of deadly reckoning?
Whoa.
Damn.
So do you have a synopsis for us, Kieran, of Volume 2?
Volume 2, yeah. I mean, just to friggin' launch into something just like that. Somewhere at the end of time, all the gods of the universe are enslaved, working to build a machine that will forever change the face of creation. What is the Godbomb?
Godbomb.
And what can Thor, the last free god in all the cosmos, do to stop it? As Gore's master plan continues to unfold, all hope for divinity is lost as Thor finds himself in chains alongside his fellow gods.
Ooh.
Damn.
Sounds intense.
It does.
So yeah, this opens with the origin of Gore. So we get to see why he's such a dickhead. So 3,000 years ago, which I'm assuming is in relation to current day Thor?
The
Most
present,
likely.
because that's always referred to as present day.
Yeah,
Right.
like now. Yeah.
So we get little baby Gore, which is hilarious that that's his birth name. is on his desolate, horrible world that's dying.
Gore the God Butcher was his name as a small child. Yes. They wondered why he turned out bad.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they had high hopes that he would become like a daycare teacher or something, but didn't quite go the way they hoped. But he lives on this planet that's dying and has basically no like cycles of day and night anymore. It's like the longer time has gone on, like the less day night they had, to the point where it's just day all the time. So nothing really grows. They basically have to move from cave to cave and eat like, you know, worms and stuff that live in the caves. And they get their moisture basically by licking the moisture off the cave walls and stuff. It's pretty miserable existence. So it's a small band of sentient beings. Like they're not human, obviously. They're aliens of some kind. I don't know if they ever say like, we are the
blah blah blah,
whatever. Yeah, the like whatever name they made up. But while he's chatting with his mom, like, hey, we should, you know, what's going on with our planet? Why does it suck so much? And she's like, oh, the gods are going to provide. It'll be fine. And we just need to keep praying. And then these T-Rex looking lizard men guys show up and eat his mom. And so that doesn't go so well. Cut to years later when he's an adult and has his own wife and she's pregnant, and they're still like, no, we got to just keep moving and doing the same things we do every day. That'll be the thing we do. And there's
and she's like, just keep praying.
Right.
Just keep praying.
I have been
the gods will
told
provide
through song that you have to pray just to make it today. That cough was the perfect reaction to that joke. Thank you.
Yeah. No, it was great. I loved it.
And his wife is swallowed up by an earthquake, and that's
his pregnant wife.
His pregnant wife.
Like,
his pregnant wife.
Zoom in on her big belly, and she's happy.
Yep. So she's like, "No, we'll just keep praying, guy. Gore, the destroyer of all gods." That, you know. And we find out he has another kid. They're still going through the desert.
Destroyer of gods.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's basically had enough. He has to bury his own child, which in their culture is not a thing you do. Like, you're supposed to leave them out as like or hang them from a tree or something as an offering, and he buries his kid, and all the other alien dudes are like, hey, that's not good. That's like basically condemning him to hell in their culture. And he's like, well, that's what happened to my wife, so screw you.
Like, yeah, it's like, things aren't good, so what's the worst that could happen?
Right, so he's had enough, and they start like stoning him because he's basically just saying what is blasphemy in their culture. And he crawls off into the desert because he's been banished, and sees this like looks like a meteor streaking across the sky and crash. So he goes to check it out, and he finds two beings, one wearing a bright golden suit and one wearing a evil looking black suit that's strangely familiar, and they're in the process of having murdered each other. So he's like, oh, that's weird, and reaches in, and I mean, as you do, he reaches in and he's like, help. The guy in gold is like, help me. He's like, wait a minute, you guys are supposed to be gods and you're wanting my help after all the crap I've been through? Like, no way. So he ends up picking up a piece of the black guy's stuff, or actually it kind of goes over to him.
Yeah.
Like, very Venom-esque, like we mentioned last week. And he's just like, no, and kills them both. And that somehow gives him the power of whatever that black armor had. And he gets on like a crazy suit and flies off into space and is like, peace out.
Yeah, it's like one of the most nonsensical origin stories.
Yeah, I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I thought it was like, I get where they're going, but like, immediately killed his mom, immediately killed his wife, which is like the trope, like the putting his wife in the fridge trope that they call it.
Yeah.
Where
and the fact that she was heavily pregnant and also just like in the face of such disaster was just like, believe in the gods, believe in the gods, believe in the, and just everyone around him was so faithful.
She was falling off the cliff during the earthquake or whatever and was screaming, gods help me. It was up until this point, good comic, but this is like extremely heavy-handed, and the way that he gets his power is like so quick and nonsensical. And then when he like leaves the planet, he's wearing what almost looks like, what would you describe that? It's almost like an Iron Man outfit, I guess. But
it's like if Iron Man and Batman had like a baby.
Yeah,
Sure.
It's like it's
Okay, you know how there's like Transformers, but then there were GoBots? He's kind of like in a GoBot style uniform, like where it's a terrible version of something that would be cool from the normal Marvel universe.
Right, like what they should have done this final panel of his backstory, or page, I guess you'd say. What they should have done is not had it, because you just see him with like the black chunk of dagger. That's all we need, right? Like, he got this weird thing. It just so happens to be incredibly powerful. We don't need to see him put on this suit they never show again, incomprehensibly. I
think it's also quite a contrast as well to when he first shows up in with Conan Thor, and he's got like the designs on his skin and like the hood and the cape.
Yeah.
And he's got like swords coming out of his hands, and that's really cool. And then you have this, which is really super not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess one interesting thing is like, are they trying to go for the idea of like Gore could have chosen the suit of the gold guy, instead he chose the dark evil guy? But as Jonah said, that's not what happens either. It's kind of confusingly laid out. It just seems like Venom gives him a rock, and he grabs rock, and then he puts on Batman space suit, and he flies away. It's like the worst part of the comic.
I was gonna say, it is my least favorite part by far. It really stalls out this first issue until it gets past it. And then it's like, okay, it's good again after this.
It's weird. Like, I didn't mind all of the sort of like miserable nature of his upbringing. Kind of works the same. Like, it's shorthand, of course. I don't always think things that are easy are lazy. I think that's a lazy critique sometimes.
Yeah, I honestly did feel in this context it felt a bit lazy, considering how well laid out I thought the pacing and everything was in the first volume, though. Where you're like, okay, we know what this team that worked on it is capable of. And it's like, I almost wish they hadn't even bothered, because I think you get like enough they didn't give a shit about from him later that you wouldn't even have needed this intro.
Right, yeah. And they make it seem like the team themselves didn't even want it. They're just like, all right, we gotta fucking show how he gets the thing.
I also wonder if that's it, like, or it was editor notes. Like, no, you need some kind of origin built in because it's a superhero comic.
Yeah. I'm wondering if that's what happened. If that is what's happened.
It feels very editor's notes.
Yeah. A producer is like, you gotta have a sad story. Have his hot. All these creatures are ugly, right? Except for his wife, she's hot and pregnant. She eats bugs.
See my DeviantArt for more information.
And the editors send back the page, and the only note is, make them more pregnant. I want to be more pregnant.
And that's the editor's always note. Make them pregnant and eat bugs. It's like, well, this is...
Is that why Spider-Woman's reboot, she was pregnant? Same editor?
Yeah. Eating bugs, the same thing.
He's like, she's Spider-Woman. She should be eating bugs.
Hey, I like what you got with this Camilla.
I'm liking the Batman story. Make Alfred pregnant and eat bugs.
Like a bat would.
Also, the baby is Apocalypse. That's a callback. All right. So,
that's my emails.
Back to the good part of the comic, many centuries later, where we find out that Gore has enslaved like all of the Asgardians as well as a bunch of other gods, and he's so freaking powerful at this point that he's like able to just completely like he's like whipping them to keep them in line. He's like the full on cliche thing of like capturing an entire civilization and making them work for you for something that is their own destruction. He's like even like going so far as to crucify them.
Yeah.
It's almost like he is a god himself.
What? That's crazy.
Flip.
And that kind of is a recurring theme too, because this guy is like, hey, you're basically the most foul god I've ever met. And the fact that he called him a god is what gets this guy crucified, this Asgardian guy.
Yeah.
This is Volstagg, which is kind of interesting because I read The Mighty Thor like a couple pages and was like, you know what? I don't know what's going on. I want to go back. Volstagg is the stereotypical hugely fat, hugely tall Asgardian dude. And in this panel, he's like extremely sexy and covered in muscles and skin and bones and beard. So I think that's probably, I don't know if that's necessarily an Easter egg, that whatever that you call it, where it's like a shorthand reference, like here's, you know, the dude that loves excess now being all skin and bones. Isn't that interesting? You know?
Okay, I can see it.
All right.
I dig it. So we get to meet Gore's son, who is like, hey, I'm just some regular kid, but these gods sure suck. And I hate them, and I only like you, Dad. And then Comixology crashes.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I love you, Dad. Let's go kill gods and play catch.
Yeah.
He's so scary, the little kid.
That kid is, I hate it.
Yeah.
It's real bad.
Yeah.
He has no pupils.
Oh, I guess that's where that one ends, so. My Comixology crashing may not have been the worst thing that happened then.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That is the end of the issue.
Right.
I feel like we made our thoughts fairly clear.
I agree.
Yeah.
Get past the origin, and it's good again. It's like half the issue.
Mean, honestly, you could skip the origin. Like, you could just skip straight past it, and it has no real bearing on the story whatsoever.
No.
Because by this point, you already understand Gore.
Because it's not like showing you like a weakness in his armor or anything like that, or like a way to defeat him, or like a callback in the future. As far as I remember, it's just literally so that we feel a little bit something for him. Like, oh, he went through a bad time, knows murder, which I guess makes him a little more 3D of a villain. But I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, I would almost argue that like. I would argue, in this style of story that they're telling, with like, you know, 3 Thors time traveling to stop the God Butcher and the Godbomb kind of thing. Like, I don't need to feel anything for the villain. It's enough for me that he is crazy and murderous and wants to, you know, blast through time to kill all the gods. Like, that's perfectly adequate. I don't need to feel sorry for him.
Yeah, and in one of the previous issues, when the Vikings are attacking him, he kind of says why he's doing it.
Yeah,
and I think the idea, and please don't take this the wrong way, listeners, of an uncaring God is not that foreign to those of us in Hell World. So I think like immediately it's like you kind of. You know, it makes sense, especially in this world where like there's 1,000 million gods, and yet everything that we know that has happened, including all these like desert planets and stuff they go to. It makes total sense immediately why one person would be like, why are you worshiping them? They're bad.
Yeah. It's like they want to make sure you understand the concept of an atheist or something. It's weird. It was a weird call. So
it's like people aren't gonna get it. People that don't believe in God are evil, so we got to give them a reason.
It's just a couple of panels of him being like, "Wow, I can't wait to eat all these babies because I don't believe in gods."
Yeah, he returns a video in the past. He goes through the Chronox blood pool to a Blockbuster to return a video not rewound and things of that nature. Kieran, do you know what a Blockbuster is?
Yes, I know what a Blockbuster is.
Okay. Do you know what a movie is?
Apparently, I don't know what a movie is, but I assure you I have at least seen one movie.
He's at least seen Planet of the Apes, yep.
It was Planet of the Apes,
because I made him watch it.
Yeah, Jonah was there for me to watch Planet of the Apes, so I can confirm that I have seen one movie.
Yes.
At least. All right, so we get into issue 7, I guess this is.
Yes.
So we have Conan Thor, who suddenly wakes up from a horrible nightmare of the God Butcher taunting him, and there is a shield maiden who's like, "What are we doing? Who are we murdering? Let's go. Let's fuck some shit
I love
up."
this character, and she should have been in it more because she's just like,
way more.
Yeah, we're either gonna do it again or we're gonna go kill something because like I'm already awake.
Yeah. She like wakes up and she's like, ready to go another round already? And he's like, no, don't do. And he says, don't worry your pretty little head. And she's like, shut the fuck up. I'm a shield maiden. I have a sword in my hand already. Let's go and kill something. And he's like, nah, never mind. Actually, I'm just being frightened. Let's get our fuck on. And she's like, for the glory of Asgard. And he's like, more like Asgard.
Yeah, they say that, and he cracooms in her. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, he
So, like, how are there not, like, hundreds of Thor babies running around Earth?
Yeah, I wonder if, like, gods are sterile in this world. I doubt that. I don't know.
Doesn't Odin have, like, 1 million half-children?
I guess, yeah. Because isn't Loki? I don't remember. The pull-out method is 96% effective if you do it right. So, you know, and
Thor's had a long time to master it.
Just gonna quickly jump in here and say, listeners, don't pull out. Use a fucking condom, please.
I mean, Asgard is pretty advanced. Maybe they had some pretty advanced birth control by this point. I would hope.
And having read
and the
Game of
humans are like,
Thrones,
what the hell is that thing?
They all have like morning after teas, like moon teas and stuff like that. So, you know,
you gotta have something, right? I mean,
gotta have something.
Otherwise, Earth's like half the population would be demigods.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Maybe that's why there's so many superheroes. Maybe Thor is actually just the father of all of the superheroes.
Oh, man. My golly. I do like the tiny panel when they start to go fuck. If you have Gore's little shadow babies staring and watching, like,
Oh, yeah, that's great.
Do it.
Yeah, do it. Yeah. And Gore's just like, I seen you cry after sex. So they're let's see. Yeah, so we come back to many millennia from now. And Avengers Thor is talking to old man Thor and he's like, "But you're really me? What?" And he just doesn't quite understand it. And so old man Thor is like, you act like you've never time traveled before.
Yeah.
This is remarkably simple. And so he's basically kind of explaining the whole thing to him that that old man Thor is now the All Father. He is like he's in charge of everything. He's the only one left. And so all of Asgard is open to them. And so he's like, the Black Berserkers are finally gone from Asgard. They've now got a chance to, take the fight to Gore and really kind of fuck shit up. And so he's like, I'll go and get everything ready. You go to this chamber, and bring something from there. And it turns out to be a giant chamber full of wine and ale.
Yes,
and
the one that Odin apparently was always telling him was off limits because it's like, oh, these are like special weapons that are only for me.
Yeah.
Which I loved. That was great. Their interplay was fantastic. I loved that scene.
Yeah.
Especially when they're both like complaining about how much time travel sucks, like dealing with it. I love that.
There's one, I've always hated time travel, and you always will.
Yeah, they're definitely having a lot of fun in this issue with all that stuff, and it works.
It does. And back in the past, Conan Thor is fighting with some freshly arrived Black Berserkers, and one of the Black Berserkers then throws a mysterious crystal at Conan Thor, who is then sucked into the blood pool and picked up by Gore in what we assume to be the future, or many millennia from now. And so he grabs him up, and then we see old man Thor ask Avengers Thor if he's ready to face the Twilight of the Gods, and the Twilight of the Gods truly does happen because my comicsology crashed. So
and killed all the gods in the process.
Damn. Well, that's the end of it. That was fun. Thanks.
Yeah. Johnny, do you want to pick it up from there?
So Thor, Avengers Thor shows up with some casks of mead or whatever the hell they drink in Asgard, and they get on a sweet ass flying Viking ship and start flying through space together. And I gotta say, this encapsulates why Thor comics are good, because it's like, hey, let's fly through space and using solar winds on this Viking ship.
Yeah,
but we're in space. It's very good. And I also like how they both just transition into saying gods of thunder. Like, they don't even give a crap that there's two of them all of a sudden.
Yeah.
I love that about them, that they're just so like they're so used to things being so strange in their existences that they're like, yep, I guess there's two of us now. Let's go.
Yeah.
Get this guy's ass.
Yeah, I could see a different comic or what have you being a negative, the fact that how quickly they transition to their new reality, but I think it like totally works in this instance.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I'd say this is probably one of my favorite moments, because I mean, like, as I said, I really eat this up. So when he's like, you know, like where they're basically just being like, let's go, and they do like the warrior kind of like forearm grasp, and then old man Thor is like, for honor and the realm eternal, for vengeance divine, the last charge of the armies of Asgard, the last ride of the gods of thunder, and you've got like this massive like Viking longship sailing through space, and it's just like, yes, yes, it's
this
so
rules.
Good.
Yes.
Yeah, pretty much. Like this rules.
Did you get your Comixology back?
I've managed to get my console.
Okay, go for it.
So then we get Conan Thor has been enslaved by Gore along with the rest of the other gods, hauling, you know, heavy things around essentially. And he's like, Gore's basically like, yeah, Thor's my bitch, and I'm going to make sure that he's the one who's responsible for all the bad stuff because I really hate him. And so we cut back over to, what is it called? Omnipotence City, the nexus of the gods, where the library is, and I really enjoy the librarian here. Because what is he talking to? The god of the watch. And the god of the watch is basically just like really, he just seems really stupid. And the librarian's just like, sort your shit out, you goddamn idiot. Like, can you not understand that this is actually very serious?
Yeah.
And the god of the watch is like huge and armored versus the guy looks like a wizard with no teeth and fairy wings. Yeah.
And so the librarian is basically like, you need to call the parliament into session because we gotta get everyone on board here. And he's like, look, if you don't want me to just start like tearing pages out of books here and like destroying things, you'll do exactly what I say. And so he starts interrogating Shadrach, who attempts to tell the librarian that he's the god of baubles and ballerinas, the god of kittens and coconuts, the god of pancakes and tambourines, until finally the librarian starts like throwing him around and beating him up. And he's just like, tell me who you are. And he's like, I am the god of bombs. And then we get our first glimpse of
the Death Star.
The Godbomb.
Oh, the Godbomb.
Yeah, I mean, it is basically a Death Star ass.
But it's smooth. It's smooth. It's had Botox injections, so it's perfectly smooth.
And it has weird neon lights in the bottom, which works for me.
Yeah. To help break it up.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
This issue got me fully back on board. That one was a little bit slow, and then this one was just like grabs you by the ear and just drags you along.
Yeah.
I think the interplay between Old Man Thor and Avengers Thor is really like, it's like it shouldn't really work that well, but I think it's just so well written that it is. Yeah, it's super primo part of this issue. I think
it's definitely a harder thing to do for sure. But
I was gonna say one of the pitfalls I see a lot in comics where they cross over just characters in general, but also like this type of thing where it's like meeting another version of the own character gets like the dialogue gets really stupid and like it's just I don't know, like it drags it down a lot of times where it could have been a really cool moment. And this one is definitely the opposite. Like this is it done correctly where both Thor's, because it's perfect because Thor is so like matter of fact about whatever's happening around him because he's like this ancient immortal being. Like you see it even in the movies where they're like, hey, that's not how we behave now. And in the movies, he's even like, oh, I'm sorry. This is just how I express this type of thing, but I won't do it anymore because you told me that's not cool to smash a glass after I drank the coffee that you gave me. But like, that's one of the things that's really endearing about Thor is like, he likes people and not just like humans, but just like mortals. Like he loves mortals. Like he thinks they're cool, like and interesting. So he's not a dick about things. And when people are like, hey, this is what we're doing, he's like, okay. And just totally rolls with it. And I think that worked incredibly well in this.
Which is why caring is one of the most interesting character traits characters can have. You know? Like, I care about people. Let's roll with it. Let's go.
Yeah. It's very good. So, any other thoughts before we move on, guys?
Did the library not completely burn down, I guess? They saved it? Is that what's happening?
Yeah,
oh my God.
I'm pretty sure they put the fire out.
I'm just confused.
Yeah, they mostly were just there to burn that one scroll, it felt like. Where
I assume so.
That's probably true.
Kronek's, like, location one, because that was part of the problem. He's like, where is this mysterious place you're trying to tell us is, like, a big deal? And he's like, I already told you the scroll burned. And he's like, well, not a very good librarian if you're letting random super monster guys come in here and burn your scroll.
And the librarian's just like, could you fuck off, maybe?
Yeah.
Like,
give me more guards. Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. I liked the old wizard guy that was the librarian. He was very good. Like, I didn't expect to like him based on, like, the cranky librarian trope, but, like, they actually made him really cool by this point.
Yeah, there's, like, for exaggeration's sake, 29 different tropes in the comic so far, but except for the origin story, I think they all just kind of work, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
It's trope for the sake of getting us from point A to point C faster, not lazier, you know?
Yes.
Yeah. Because I think because it's such a epic fantasy story, you know, having those kinds of tropes isn't necessarily a bad thing. It can be a good way to get to a certain point.
Definitely.
But obviously, as you said, you know, with the origin story, you know, when they're utilized, you know, I don't want to say incorrectly, but when they're utilized in a kind of a uncreative way, they can be a little bit boring. But.
Yeah. So let's get into number 8.
Can I immediately interrupt you, Jonah?
Yeah, go ahead.
At least in the comicsologies, I don't know if comicsology uses the alternate covers or what, but the posters, like the cover of issue 8 is so good, and all of the covers of pretty much all of them are so good that I would love prints of all of these. And
I was going to say,
they're baffling.
This is one of those few times where I'm like, yeah, I'd put that on my wall. Yeah, I'd put that one on my wall too. Like, you could wallpaper your room in these covers and it'd be amazing looking because they're so fantastic.
They are very, very good, I have to say. They're very, very nice covers.
And this is the one where Thor is being held up in the same position the other guys you saw get crucified in by the, like, black evil stuff that Gore uses, and he's in the background, like, commanding it, and it just looks really cool. Yeah, just so people know which cover we're talking about.
Yeah.
Number 8.
It's real good.
Yeah. So 8 opens with the two Thors on the boat, talking about, you know, we got to get to this world. They're trying to find Gore and stop him. And then we see, like, how messed up the planet is that they're working on. So Thor, the Conan Thor, is a slave. So again, he's super Conan. Like, he's enslaved and then rises up later. That is totally what happens to Conan. But that's fine. Like, it works well. Like, there's a lot of parallels, which I think is not a bad thing, because that Conan comic we read, which is based on his original origins, was very, very good. So, like, taking inspiration from that, it feels like in this was the right call to make. So he's being forced to move rocks and, you know, the normal stuff they do when people are enslaved in comics and movies. And he
lift heavy stuff.
He's like gets whipped by one of the berserkers and is just like, you know what, screw you, and just like hucks this giant rock in his face. And then he gets kicked by this woman who is also an Asgardian, who he's like, what the hell? And they're like, hey, look, you may be super strong, but some of these other guys are going to get murdered if you keep doing this. So, like, knock it off. Our friends have already been getting crucified. Yeah. You're not helping anyone. So, there's these 3 women who are Asgardians. So he's like, who are these women that I don't recognize? I'm sure this will never come back into play.
Yeah, well, they even tell you, instead of making you wait for, like, an awkward accidental smooch moment, they have like the little bubble out of it. It's like his own future grandchildren.
Yes, I love that. Where they're just like, by the way, the one that was totally hitting on him, it's super awkward now.
Yeah.
Put away your boners because this is not going well.
Because this is really fucked up.
This is against all rules.
Yes. So that kid ends up visiting Thor, the Gore's son, who is, basically there to just be like, hey, gods suck, right?
Yeah.
So,
Gore's son posts on message boards at like 1 o'clock in the morning about how like church is dumb. And he doesn't want to go.
And then he's, gets Thor all riled up. And then when Thor's gonna like threaten him, he uses it like he has some crazy like magic power stuff too. And like stabs Thor in the throat with the finger. And it kind of like wraps around and starts choking him. And he's like, get back to work before I have you crucified, because my dad is the boss. My dad owns the place. I can do whatever I want.
Oh, God. It's my dad's
my
restaurant.
dad works at Nintendo.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we find out that the other gods are actually planning an uprising. They've been working on it for a long time. And then, of course, Thor shows up and is like, I'll just do it myself. And he grabs their big secret weapon and is like,
my God.
I'm going to go just blow up the super Godbomb thing right now. And they're like, what the hell? And we find out that they are also, because they're all descendants of him, they all also can summon thunder, but haven't been able to do so because everyone's powers are somehow being suppressed while they're here, because other gods have tried to conjure whatever they're the god of, and it just wouldn't work. They mention even the god of wine can only turn water into vinegar on this planet.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of funny.
And Thor, as he's running through, actually manages to call down some thunder. And that allows him to get close enough to the Godbomb to throw this material they've been gathering to build it with, which is supposed to blow it up. And you see what looks like him being triumphant, and it hits the side of it, and you see a big boom. And and from space, Thor and Old Man Thor are being attacked by space sharks, which is pretty funny. Like there's bodies of gods that are being eaten by them. And it's just pretty amazing to see some ghost like space sharks flying around.
Yeah, the whole comic has been kind of weird, but not like the whole visiting strange gods thing is like, oh, that's a little weird. But now that they're flying through space, yeah, that's a little weird. But the fact that they're space sharks, it's like, all right, we're full on with this, baby. We've hooked you with our story. Now you're into it. Space sharks.
Yeah, it's like we've set up a certain threshold of logic, so now we can do whatever the fuck we want.
Yes.
Exactly.
It's very good. But the Conan Thor, who is now officially just Conan because he just was imprisoned and then escaped and isn't just in a loincloth, and
he is Conan.
He gets blown through space up onto their ship and smashes Avenger Thor in the face with a shark in a scene that I enjoyed quite a lot.
So stupid, but good. Good stupid.
Yeah.
It's the good kind of dumb. But yeah, they have to kind of bring him up to speed because they're like, God, I was stupid when I was that young.
Yeah. And Middle Thor. Yeah, Middle Thor is able to be like, oh, this youngling as well.
Yes.
And into the dunk zone.
Yes, it's very good. Constantly being dunked on. Like, Odin Thor is, like, the best at dunking on all his younger selves. Yeah. Saying how stupid he was back then and how he didn't have an awesome beard. He just keeps going on about how magnificent his beard is now and how he should have had one back then.
Yes.
He's not wrong. That's true.
No, he's not wrong. It's very good.
It's a good beard.
We also see the return of Conan Thor's, like, jealousy over Mjolnir. Like, he sees that it's there and is like, wait a minute. That means when I get older, I'm going to have that.
Yeah.
He gets super excited.
I love one small thing I love is when they say hell for a cuss, they only have one L.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a little fun thing.
Very good. It was very
By
good.
all the pits of the hell, it's da-da-da-da-da, you know.
Yeah. And the young Thor, even like when he goes in the armory, he's like got hammer envy big time because he ends up grabbing a hammer as his weapon out of all these different weapons he could have picked. He's just like, well, screw you guys. I want a hammer too. So but his is like an actual battle one, which has like the full length handle.
Oh yeah. It's like twice as big.
Yeah. Which I don't know if it's the normal mythology thing. I actually have read some of the Neil Gaiman's Norse mythology book, which is really good. And a lot of the stories are obviously Thor ones. And it talks about like how they were basically someone was messing with him. And it was probably Loki. It's been a while since I've read it. But he like messed with when the dwarves were working on the hammer so that it would be useless. And that's why it has like the short handle.
Oh, really?
But, yeah. Because then you wouldn't be able to like swing it properly. but because Thor is already so beefy, it didn't matter. So yeah, the Thors all come together, and there's an amazing last panel where then again, this is another thing where you could totally just hang this on your wall, where it's all three Thors like standing in their battle gear, ready to go with their hammers. Yeah. And Avengers Thor says, "Now we let the hammers talk," because and you're just like, hell yeah. Yeah. And the issue was very good, and I greatly enjoyed how silly it got, but also how young Thor is shown to be super impulsive, even compared to Avengers Thor. Yeah, definitely. It feels like they were trying to make up for the previous issue or the initial issue, and to the extent that, you know, like, all right, we're gonna have to make sure that young Thor chooses a hammer just so that we get the line, "Now we let the hammers talk." Yes. And now that we can have hammer envy, and, you know, space sharks, we didn't need that. I don't know how he got, like, they don't explain at all how he got from planet to boat. Obviously they explain explosion, space, go. Sure. But, you know, the odds, I know a little bit about space. It's big, is my understanding. Yes, very big. But yeah, you know, it doesn't matter. Who gives a shit? They should have followed that logic with, Gore and his, backstory. Yeah, for sure. Another thing is they give baby Thor different armor. So now we're able to differentiate each Thor based on how they look, and they all look extremely different. So that's very helpful. Yeah, I love all their designs. They look distinct, but you can tell it's the same guy in different ages. They even did a really good job of making the younger Thor, just his face, look younger, which is like, that's gotta be really hard to convey when you're redrawing the same character over and over again for a comic book. Hard. But it's very consistent. Like, I'm really impressed with the artwork in this. You know, just all overall. But yeah, the next one has my favorite cover, where it's all three Thors. It's all three Thors, yeah. And it's like the lightning and stuff. God, yeah, that I would have. I wish I had a giant poster of in my office right now, because that's my new favorite Thor picture, I think, of all of them. The first issue and the second issue covers, they combine, and it's old Thor down the middle, and it looks do yourself a treat and look that up. It looks really good. I will have to do that. Yeah, that is actually real dope. All right, so let's get into issue 9. So we open on Gore basically going into like a creepy ass looking bedroom, and his wife is there, and she's basically like, "Come get our fuck on." And he's like, no, I got too much work to do making my bomb. And you know, so me. She's like, you know me, just making bombs, just killing gods, ain't a thing. And she's like, what are we gonna do afterwards? And he's like, I'm finally be ready to. And she's like, please don't say die. And he's like, no, to live. And I was like, oh, it hits you right there. Damn. I think that's all right. That one page is a better backstory than that entire opening of that other issue. Yeah, 100%. And so then they hear this like massive rumble, and then the Thors arrive, and they're just like, what's the plan? And they're like, we're just gonna hit shit, and like, you know, the old Thor's like, follow my lead, and trying to get killed, and so they jump off the boat, and we get one of my favorite parts where you have like all three Thors kind of like on one side leaping towards Gore, who has like his black berserkers flying out, and the caption is, "Then struck Thor with the fury of a billion storms." Jeez. And I was like, and of course, young Thor is the first one who you know. Oh yeah. Impetuous is like, he can't fly, you know, because he doesn't have Mjolnir, right. So he's just falling, while the other two are like getting prepared to do their Mjolnir thing, and he's like, yeah, it's so good. Yeah, I like that. They do make a comment about that too, because like, you're like, oh right, he doesn't just fly, like he doesn't fly without the hammer. He uses the hammer to fly, because we're so used to him flying everywhere. Yeah. And so they basically like start wailing away on the berserkers and kicking ass, and Gore is, you know, his typical self, where he's like, thank God you showed up, because now I have a last chance to be a butcher. And so old man Thor, he's like, I'm gonna feel the thunder of my blood, and he blasts Gore with a, it's like
Thor, use Thunderwave. And he blasts Gore several light years away, and it's like he knows fear. And Jonah, do you want to quickly pick it up? Fucking goddamn comicsology.
Yeah. Yes, so he is knocked, it says many light years away, and the two Thors with Mjolnir immediately, fly that direction so that they can continue the fight. It's cool to see, like, his, the thing that the younger Thors are really impressed with, too, is that when that's the old Thor, he has Odin's power. Which is what that gigantic blast was, where he's like, oh, I haven't been able to do this for a long time because of all the crap he had been going through. But it's like his fighting spirit was returned when the other Thor showed up, which also returned his ability to use that power. So that's, like you said, it's when Gore is finally like, oh, crap, I could actually lose this fight for the first time. Because, like, he's never thought he could lose to Thor, even with as tough as Thor is. Like, that's why he is, like, always toying with him and like, oh yeah, I'm gonna kill you last because you pissed me off. But yeah, they fight a giant, he summons like it's not the Berserker, but it's kind of like a Leviathan version, which is pretty cool. Yeah. And it eats the older two Thors. And since young Thor can't fly, he improvises and goes after Gore on a space shark, which
hell yeah,
is one of those panels where I like to screenshot it and post it like, hey everybody, comics are good. And just post these random ass panels that make me incredibly happy.
Like, it makes me think, how do they get away with this? Like I don't dislike it. It's obviously very good, but it's so banana pancakes that, like, it feels like there should be someone in charge, some, pencil pusher that's like, you can't do this. You can't have young Thor. Like, how does he control the space shark? Is the space shark fast? Like, I don't know. He gets there.
Doesn't matter.
It's cool. It's cool, right? It's cool that you got young Thor
They're
on
real
a shark.
Cool. Yeah.
Exactly. Did you get your comicsology back?
I had my comicsology back.
Go for it.
And so we got the two older Thors trapped inside the serpent, and Avengers Thor's like, we have to get out of here, and older Thor's like, am I not the All-Father? And he just opens the serpent up, and he's like, get out of here and deal with what's going on here. And then we get, one of my favorite, like, trope moments where it's like, he's like basically almost like breaking apart because he's swinging Mjolnir at Gore so hard, but he's like, he's just swinging harder than ever and harder than before and again and again. He's just like, really like, he's trying his best. But then he realizes that the moon nearby isn't empty and actually has people living on it. And so he basically flies over to like seal back up a volcano and kind of save the planet. And you get like a little bit of a thing from Gore where he's basically like, you're my favorite Thor because you try so desperately hard to seem like a good god. You know that the gods are secretly bad, but you doubt. So therefore, like, I'm going to look forward to killing you. But at that moment, the elderly Thor and also young Thor, they both show back up, and so they all like kind of basically reunite to attempt to kick his ass, and they all basically butt rush him at the same time, and they all fly together into the sun, which then turns black, and I was like, they've done it, they've finally won, and they didn't. And God blood begins to rain down from the sky. The three Mjolnirs hit the ground, and the Thors also hit the ground. And Gore is like, "Make ready the bomb," and that is the end of the issue.
So
and I was
good.
Like, damn, it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah. So many wild things happen, but on top of that, they, go from space sharks to them failing, and it's like, and then it rained God blood. And then it rained hammers. And it's just an amazing panel of Gore looking 98 feet tall and unharmed.
Yeah. And he's so sketchy and like translucent. Like he is, like, this is probably one of the best pictures of him because he's got like the flowing kind of bits coming off him. Yeah. And then just like in an indistinct heap, you just have the three bloody Thors.
This is one of the few times I feel like he feels like a good, like, well done villain as far as like, oh crap, like this guy's actually like a threat. Whereas a lot of times villains like this, where they're a new villain that's introduced for a story arc, and by the end of the story arc it's probably going to be resolved in some way, so they don't ever really feel that threatening. This is like where you go, oh man, this guy actually is a threat and is like pretty dope, actually. Like, that was a really cool fight, and I did not see it coming.
Yeah, for sure. Like, and you're not sure what to even look for when you're trying to see anything coming, because one, we currently have 3 different Thors, right? 2, we have time travel, which obviously helps us get those 3 Thors, and we have like MacGuffins, like time crystals introduced. It's we're getting to the point where I would not begrudge someone or dunk on them and call them stupid poop pants if they assumed that it was possible that the Thors could lose, but survived another day based on weird wrinkles, like, and that was the day this timeline was lost, or they did some weird, they ride space sharks to go light years away. They could come up with another weird way to win without winning, right?
And being on, like, reading it on Comixology, I also didn't know, like, how much was left. I didn't even go into this knowing how many issues it was, so I was just like, I was expecting the Flying into the Sun to be like, oh, then they beat him, the end. And it's like, oh, there's still a couple issues left.
Nope.
So.
Yeah. I think it's like, it's what I was saying before, like, it's kind of, this is the sort of the point in the story where it's like, anything could happen, any kind of possibility is open, but because they've kind of narratively defined, like, this is crazy banana pants, and we have 3 Thors and time travel and everything. If anything happened, I wouldn't be mad, because it's like, this is what you've set up, and you've set it up really well. So feel free to do whatever the hell you want.
And I don't know what was going on in the other major characters' comics, but setting this where this final confrontation is happening in old Thor's time is actually really smart, because as the audience, you're not like, well, then the Avengers are just going to show up and help him. It's like, no, he's on his own. Like, nobody is there to help him at this point in time. Because he is so far in the future. It's like, does Earth even exist right now? We don't know. This is thousands and thousands of years from now.
When I was reading, because the whole point is I wanted to read Lady Thor, aka Mighty Thor. So I needed to get all the stuff that, like, fed into it. And, when I was going down that particular rabbit hole to find out what the best things to read was, it didn't mention any other stuff. Because, like, sometimes they'll go, like, well, if you want to know where Iron Man went, there's like a 1 issue. You don't really need to read it, but whatever. It's well written. I didn't see anything like that. It mostly just, like, leads into the Uatu the Watcher and how he gets murdered, and, like, how we get to Lady Thor and stuff like that.
Right.
But I'm not too sure what the overarching Marvel, like, if there was a Marvel, like, all-encompassing story going along. And plus, these are going on for several years. So, like, it starts in 2013, and I think it goes to, like, 2014, 2015. And there's, like...
if this was a monthly, I mean, we're already almost through a year's worth of comics at this point.
Yeah, because I think Lady Thor starts in 2015, give or take. So, it's both one of those things where a lot is happening in the exact story, but as you said, the fact that there is that little bit of time travel, it feels like, it's not ruining the timelines of all the other books that are happening up until, 2015.
Yeah, for sure. So, all right. Well, that takes us into issue 10, where we're kind of getting close to the finish line at this point, where we start with Old Man Thor. They keep bringing up this, weirdly, this crucifixion position that characters keep ending in. I don't know what they're trying to say with that, but
is it? I mean, that's not a religious thing.
I don't think so. And Old Man Thor is on a rock being, like, shot through space. And in the crucifix position, Avengers Thor is falling into basically, like, it looks like a volcano or something. Like, he's just, like, you're like, well, he's probably dead, but maybe not, because he's Thor. And then young Thor is being dragged along by Gore, by his hair, which looks really painful, like dragging him on his face basically in the dirt, where you're just like, dang, like the indignity.
Who cares about the times that he was stabbed and shot? Now, like when his hairsies is being, pulled, is hurtful. He looks so sad in the picture too.
I know. And then Gore's wife shows up, which, does she even get a name? I mean, like, maybe she does. I didn't catch it if she did, but...
Nah.
Isn't there, like, weird stuff about the wife and the son? Is that this issue, or did I make that up?
They'll get there, yeah.
Okay.
But she shows up and is like, oh, you've accomplished everything you wanted to, and the bomb's ready to go, and she's like, you're so awesome, Gore, you're my savior, you're my god, and he just, like, stops and is like... What did you just say? And that panel where he turns around to look at her, you're just like, oh no.
Oh my god.
That was not the right thing to say.
That is not the thing to say.
And he just straight up murders her. And I'm just like, dude, like, I get you're like super anti-gods, but come on. Like,
I know. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and this is where you lose all sympathy for him.
I don't like Gore.
No, Gore's a bad guy.
Gore's bad.
Like a very bad guy. And his son shows up and is like, Dad, you're so cool. Where's Mom? And he's like, Mom moved away to a farm where she'll be much happier. And then he walks off with Thor.
Sorry, son. She went out for cigarettes.
Yes.
Yeah.
But he's so bad at being, like, secretive about his murders because, I guess he normally doesn't care about leaving traces. Yeah. Her hand is just sticking out of the ground. Which, if you remember... That's like his thing, because his culture was like, don't bury your dead because, you're supposed to leave him out for the gods, and he buries her. But what is it saying that he didn't fully bury her? That's weird to me. Like, I don't get it. Like, is that just so that the son could find him, or was there like a story reason for him to be like, I don't know. It was an interesting choice, I thought, because
I feel like for all his posturing, Gore still kind of believes in his gods.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Yeah.
And on top of that, it's been thousands of years, so he probably hasn't had to think about small things such as hiding bodies. Or really, he's never tried to hide bodies. He's done the exact opposite.
Left them out.
That classic hubris,
Yes, exactly. So the son is, of course... probably not going to be on his side anymore because of the whole murdering his mom thing. Turns out when you murder...
so ungrateful.
Yeah, when one parent murders the other, the kids tend to no longer like that parent.
Millennials.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Him and his avocado toast and his mom murder.
It's like, all I want is healthcare and college, and you killed my mom.
Mm-hmm. But we get a pretty good scene of the three, like, granddaughters of Thor, like... arguing about like, hey, let's get out of here, and I need to reach these hammers and stuff, and because they all want Mjolnir, because like, who wouldn't, right? Like, it's cool. And then the one being like, man, it sucks that we're all captured, but the one is like, I'm gonna bite my own tongue off and choke on it so that he doesn't have the satisfaction of murdering me.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, those are Thor's kids, all right.
Yeah.
But we get to see Gore at the heart again, the heart that he ripped out of the baby god from the beginning of time. And he's like, well, I'm going to add your blood to this pool of time blood thing. And he's like, oh, I'm going to need more than the little bit you dripped out from me smashing your face into this. It's an odd scene.
I don't know why I find that so funny.
I don't know. It was weird. But the Avengers Thor is trying to climb back up from that pit that he was following in. And as he's about to fall to his death, probably, the son of Gore actually saves him and is like, hey, I don't usually pray to gods, but I'm going to pray that you kill my dad because he is an asshole and just killed my mom and I hate him. Because, I mean, all kids hate their dads eventually. I'm trying to mentally prepare myself for that day.
Yeah. They love the mom and they want to kill the dad. Classic.
Exactly. But the other gods that were all like stuck to that weird like webbing stuff, because he's not Venom. Just so you know, he's not.
He's not Venom.
That stuff all vanishes and they are able to go get all the weapons that were found like stuck inside of a rock for some reason. Like, I'm guessing that's from like, is that the crashed ship's storehouse, or is this weapons that were squirreled away?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. There's weapons. And the best part is the daughter or the granddaughter going for the Mjolnirs, and them both just like flying away as she tries to grab them. She's like, son of a...
Yeah.
It's like, I was so close.
How do they get broken free? I couldn't follow this.
Yeah, it just kind of seems to happen, which is weird.
Yeah.
I'm guessing the son did something like that wants to kill his dad now, because he's tied into the power, we find out soon. And then Conan Thor, being like a total badass who's about to be murdered, like lunges forward and bites Gore's eye out, which is like,
it's metal
what
as hell.
The hell? It's insane. And Gore's like, that won't stop me. And he's like, well, it's fine. He's
and the next page he like spits the eye out. It's just like,
it was bad.
There's his eye flying out.
It was bad, like, but also very good.
Yeah, I was like, that's disgusting, but also I fucking love it.
Yeah. But now the army of gods that are freed start fighting all the berserkers off, and Old Man Thor returns. I don't really get why, but he steals a heart from another god, like some random cat guy. I didn't get that, but it's
I
like
was
he keeps
whatever.
being like, I need more god blood for some reason. But
he just loves god blood. He's horny for god blood.
He can't get enough.
Yeah, there's just so much happening. It's just like, all right, sure. A cat god got to die. Okay, yeah. That makes sense.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's all good. Yeah. But the best thing that happens is Avengers Thor ends up with both Mjolnirs and starts like just beating the crap out of like
that
trying to break his
so
way
hard
into the heart.
It was so good. Like, he's just smashing away at that thing. It's so amazing.
Yeah, and that made me so happy, because I'm like, there's got to be a scene where he gets both of them. I knew there had to be a scene as soon as they introduced two Mjolnirs.
Yeah.
I also love that both Mjolnirs, because it's kind of like got its own consciousness, because they mentioned like it's laughing at like something at one point and they can detect it or something, like they both hear it, but they don't seem to care that he's not the Thor. Like, the one from Old Man Thor doesn't care that he's not that Thor.
Yeah. I like, too, that Old Man Thor threw the other Mjolnir over, and it wasn't like he lost it. He, like, willingly gave it up. Like, go, smash, go.
Yes.
Yeah.
But like, what a cool way to end that issue, where it's just like, and now he has two of them. Showing him, like, smashing it, and the splash page of sound effects of him smashing things.
Yeah.
And that was the end of the issue 10. It's really, really on a roll, so I think we should just keep moving on if you're ready there, Kieran.
Yeah, issue 11. And so we're at Omnipotent City, and the librarian is dragging Shadrach through, and he's like, it's gonna go off, the bomb's gonna go off, and it's gonna, what is it? It's gonna ripple, what is it? It runs through time. It will kill us no matter when we are.
Yes.
The bomb will ripple backward through time, exploding every and then they all die. And just immediately fall over.
Yeah.
And so there's this massive explosion happening in the world of the Godbomb, and everyone's just like screaming and yelling, and Old Man Thor is being stabbed by Gore, and time is like really sort of slowing down, and it says, if he had been a lesser god, Thor might have accepted that Gore had won, and more so that Thor deserved to win. But this was no lesser god. And he just like picks up both hammers and smashes them together. And it says, even if he had been the last god alive in all the universe, he still would have been god enough. And he starts sucking Gore's weapon, his sort of venom suit, into his two hammers. And Old Man Thor says he's dying like a god. And we get this amazing page of Thor with both hammers clapped together, and he's just like
very good,
head back, yelling, drawing the goop into his body, and everyone is like aware of Thor, and they all like everyone across time and space is praying to Thor, including like an Odin from the past who is praying to his own son, and they're all just like we believe in you, Thor, and Yeah. It was so good.
This is the kind of scene that I like cheering along, like, yes, Thor, go Thor.
Yeah.
I don't know if we said this yet, but I read this actually months ago. And I'm pretty sure I liked it in the moment, but now that I'm re-looking at it, I'm not liking it as much.
Okay.
I think mostly because it's like, I agree with what you said before of like, normally I wouldn't like it. And I think I'm the reverse of you because I hadn't like read it back to back right now, if that makes sense. I think just like standing back, I'm like, wait, can Mjolnir suck in this weapon we don't know anything about? I mean, it's the flying space shark of how they solve.
Sure.
That's
but fair.
I will say this too, I'm not super what's I'm looking for, versed in comic books, and one of the things I was most impressed by the way that comic books end is all the ones that I read up until this point just end. They're like, this is how we do it, It kind of reminds me of trying to figure out a way to end like a Dungeons and Dragons campaign or like a big boss battle. And after reading several comic stories, it's like, they can just end, The journey was important. And so this, it works. I think you see how much it's hurting Thor, and you get this amazing page of like, our Thor covered in the goo or whatever. It's all done masterfully, but just in this one moment, I'm just kind of confused, and it's been a lot happening back to back to back that we're not too sure what's happening. But it's like, I hate to say that, like, it's so well done. Well, if acting was, obviously that's the wrong word, that it does still work, and you can see how much pain our Thor, much like our Jesus, took upon him before he went across.
Oh God.
Which, all kidding aside, there's like every 3 pages in the second half of this arc is a crucifixion. So I'm kind of curious if that's another thing they're going for. I don't know.
They do have the whole. I can't remember where this was happening because he dies and comes back 3 days later.
He comes back 3 days later.
It's like they got that from something, right?
The 3 days later are a little on the nose, if you ask. Yeah.
I mean, he is Space Jesus, I guess.
I mean, he basically is.
Because I guess what he's doing is he's absorbing the blast into himself, which, whatever. I guess that's fine. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I thought it was amazing. I was like, this is the climax that I was waiting for based on everything that was coming prior to it. So I was, but I mean, this is, I've always been very clear about this is exactly the kind of stories that I'm a massive sucker for. Like I'm fully aware that this is actually very cheesy, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense, but I still absolutely love it.
Yeah.
And so Thor ends up actually absorbing the entire weapon, and he's like, and Gore's like, "Oh, where's my weapon?" And Thor's like, "It's not your weapon anymore. It laughs at you. It is, what is it? The all black, the necro sword." So stupid. And then we get a great double panel spread where Thor does the whole Krakoom lightning out of twin hammers with the Venom suit straight into Gore's face, and it is so satisfying.
I do love how he's like talking about the all black, the necro sword. I had to make sure I was reading that right. And he's like, it was meant to be wielded by a god, but you were right about one thing. He's like, no, give it back. He's just so pathetic in that moment where you're like, oh yeah, Gore was just a dude who happened upon this. Like, and even they showed like one of the reasons he got more powerful as time went on was when we saw Thor cut his arm off in the past, like past Thor did. It was like before he was holding a thing that was allowing him to have powers, and then the thing like absorbed itself into him once his arm was removed because he had like the shadow arm, and it's like, so Thor unknown to him is the reason he got so powerful. And then they talk about like it was powered by like god blood, and that's why he kept getting more powerful the more gods he killed. So basically, if you've seen the one with Jet Li, it's that.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. I also like that they have that little bit of like, no one knows what this weapon is. It was forged, blah, blah, blah. And again, it feels like Gore's origin story was tacked on the end, because they have this section of like, no one really too sure what this weapon is, yada, 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 who gives a shit? And then now they're calling the all black the Necro Sword. And another like small thing I love is that obviously the panel where Thor is absorbing the Necrosword, I guess, at this point, and the Godbomb and all that stuff. One, he's kind of drawn in the same similar fashion as Gore was, where like very, very, very pencil strokes or paint strokes, where it's like very painterly, and his speech bubbles are black background with white. I don't know what we're supposed to hear when he talks that way, but it's an extremely, extremely good effect.
It's not your weapon anymore. It laughs at you, Gore. Its name's the All Black Necro Sword.
Yes.
That's what they were going for. You nailed it.
Yeah.
The Necro Sword.
It's a Necro Sword, isn't it? Isn't it, mate? And so Gore is basically just like, you don't deserve this. The universe is misery. And his son shows up and basically just gives him like one last dunk where he's like, you can't blame the gods. It wasn't a god that betrayed you. It was only ever yourself. And then his son melts. And for some reason, people were surprised by this. I don't know why. And so Conan Thor then cuts his head off. And as we said, Avengers Thor dies. 3 days later, he comes back to life. Just cuz doesn't really matter why.
Space Jesus, yes.
Space Jesus,
very good.
Well, it's thus Thor died for the 9th time that could be remembered.
Yeah, which I thought was kind of funny. And so basically we get like a little denouement where the 3 Thors are just like, wow, that was crazy, wasn't it? And then they basically like they just leave the Necro Sword where it fell out of Thor. And so they basically
Old Man Thor says he threw it into a black hole, the planet that it was stuck on.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, throws the entire planet.
He's like, so nobody can get it back unless they can get into black holes. Which I'm trying to think, like, are there any Marvel characters who could survive that? I'm sure there's a couple.
Probably.
I mean, that big dragon thing, the joke was that that was killed earlier, that he would wrestle black holes. So, you know.
That's true.
That's true.
Yeah. And so Old Man Thor is basically he just dunks on Conan Thor and he's like, you'll never be the son your father wants you to be. And it's really awkward and he just leaves and that's the last thing he says to him.
But the cool thing was like they started a new Asgardian society of like, hey, all these displaced gods who have nowhere to go, they can all just chill here until they're ready to leave, or they can just stay here if they want, which is pretty cool of him, where he's just like, hey, I have this big empty area that like gods are supposed to be living here, so why not all come and be my roomies?
And so then we get young Thor returning to the Vikings, and they're like, he's like, I can't stay long. And they're like, damn, we just whipped up some meat. And he's like, well, I guess I can stay a little bit longer. And so Avengers Thor, heads off to continue saving the day, and Old Man Thor hangs out with his grandchildren, and we get like a nice little, denouement of them, like basically implying that like eventually they're not going to remember this because A, time travel, and also they're immortal. So, don't bother bringing up why no one remembers this.
Well, yeah. And it does. I'm glad they didn't just mention that now. Like that is a recurring thing of like, hey, you guys live so long, you forget these people you either helped or didn't help, or, screwed over because you're gods and you don't care. The Thor's not that way, but a lot of them are, which is one of the reasons Gore hates them. But I thought that was really cool. Like, hey, it ties back in, but there's a reason Old Man Thor didn't remember meeting them. But it feels a little nicer that they didn't just spring this on them at the end, because that is one thing that bothers me in time travel, was like, and I was really worried about with this one, where it'd be like, hey, we reset everything, nothing actually happened. And this is like, no, all that terrible stuff really happened, and all these people are still dead. But he was able to, like, prevent him from the Godbomb, where, like, gods never even existed if he had been successful with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And it's like we're not too sure how many gods were killed at this time, but we do know for a fact that obviously a fuck ton were killed up until the point that present Thor got brought into the future. Yes. And it looks like Gore had time crystals so he could go back in time to snatch up other gods. Right. So, you know, it's either Thor and I guess Odin are the only gods left to, you know, there's a smattering of a few out there, I guess.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Just chilling.
Yeah. And so at the very end, Thor returns to the planet that originally, you know, prayed for him to come. And, he basically tells the little girl that he's arranged for a new pantheon to watch over, this world. And the comic ends with essentially implying that, his story has only just begun.
Damn, it's true.
And that is the end. That is true.
Also, that's Thor, man of his word. Like, he brought back gods that were ready to leave Asgard and, like, to watch over the planet. And he said he would do that. And also, I love that it showed Conan Thor, like, going back to Mjolnir and trying to lift it. And for the first time, it actually moves. Like, so you can't pick it up. Yeah. But it's like, ooh, he's getting there. He's almost there. Yeah. Like, he got it to move, which I thought was awesome. It's like, I think they did a pretty good job of some character growth for all three of them over the course of this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Sure. I like one of the last panels of Old Man Thor is him just laughing, you know, full of mirth, wearing just normal clothes, you know.
Yeah.
It's not like explicitly
no longer
a good
to wear
ending.
His battle gear constantly.
Exactly. Yeah. They don't need to show him, you know, like feasting out. It's like just watching the son with his granddaughters.
That was good.
That's enough of an ending for him. Yeah.
All right. So that's it. That's Thor. Yeah. That's the first story arc of the Thor God of Thunder series.
Yeah. And I've read the next arc. It's not as good, but it's smaller and fun. And with another mass murderer. So,
oh no.
but not it's again. Like Thor gets a merry band of misfits, which is really fun. So it's a completely different vibe, and I like it's good.
So final thoughts.
I mean, I'll just go first because I can be quick. Thor, God of Thunder, the God Butcher, and the Godbomb are both amazing. They're epic fantasy in the best way. The writing is very good. The art is great. The character interplay is very, very good. I mean, there's that one issue that is a little bit poops.
It's only half the issue, though, to be fair.
Well, only half the issue. But more than made up for by everything else that happens afterwards. Incredibly epic ending to the story arc. Just a really tight story that is nicely contained within itself. And I think even if you've listened to both episodes and you still haven't read it, I'd still just go and read it anyway, because it's just a very fun, very well done read. So I would totally recommend it.
Yeah, and I obviously loved it so much that even though I read it, I was like, I've read this before. I think other people should. So that's why I suggested this, as opposed to picking something that I was interested in reading and I hadn't read yet. So, this one I was like, no, it's good as hell. Let's read it. Everything you said about it being epic but yet grounded is just so true. One of the things I'm afraid of when I start reading a new comic book in the small numbers that I have is it's going to feel like I didn't read enough of the side issues, or if I'm reading a Thor, I didn't read the Iron Man, or I didn't read the all universe, Civil War book or whatever to get the understanding. I did, as silly as it sounds, I didn't know that even big characters like this, their main runs could be this small and tight. And after reading the next arc, it's also small and tight. and I'm into the third arc, and it's very weird. He fights a corporation. It's like this whole thing of, they can
like
just
God
do...
Corporation.
It's the opposite of that, actually. They
Atheist
kinda,
Co.
It's a demon or something like that. They keep bouncing from interesting stories, and like the interstitial between this arc and the next arc, he like meets someone and they like come up later. So it both shows like that it is bigger on top of like, no man, this is like a quick story, that it changes the characters. It shows you how they've gotten older. And it also shows you why they've always been good. You know, one could argue that Avenger Thor didn't have that much character growth, but you know, I think the heavy character growth is the old and young Thor here. But yeah, no, I loved it. I was immensely surprised.
I'm going to say that this will be the one that I recommend now for, hey, I want to get into Marvel, or hey, I like Thor in the movies. What should I read? This is what I'm going to tell people.
For
That's
sure.
how good this was, where I'm like,
yeah, for sure.
You want a good starting point for Thor where you don't have to know anything else? This is what you want to read, is these first 2 volumes. And if you like these, yeah, keep reading, read some Avengers or whatever. But like, this is my new favorite Thor story arc that I've read. So I had never read these ones before because I'd kind of fallen off. I don't keep up to date these days. Like, I just don't have the time or resources to do that because that's expensive as hell. But thankfully, like, Comixology Unlimited has like a ton of these on. Like, I think the first 3 volumes are on there. And
yeah, I think so.
It's like, it's easy to jump in because I can just hop on and read them. It's totally worth it if it's available in your country. Sorry, Karen. So
this was actually the first Thor that I'd actually ever read.
Yeah,
I've not read any Thor prior to this, so I can confirm as a first Thor comic, it is very good.
Yeah.
Because your knowledge of Thor would be mostly the movies then?
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, interesting. I could see, folks who read a lot of comics, probably they start with your Thors and your Iron Mans, your Spider-Mans, and then they spin out, and then they start to read their Chews eventually. Yeah. And to me, I'm kind of curious about y'all, like, what it's like to spin back inwards and, like, an Avenger, motherfucker, the number one.
Yeah, it is weird because when I was doing comics, we were an independent comic. Like, we were independently published. Everything was our own promotion, going to cons, promoting our own book. And because of that, what I would do is go around Artist Alley, which are like, these are people who aren't even big enough. Usually, sometimes they are, but like, a lot of them are self-published. Some of them are from smaller publishers, and usually it's not even something big enough to have a full booth. So they just have a table, or half a table even. Those are the people I go around and like, yes, I will buy whatever the hell you're selling and see what weird-ass comic you have, because that's what we're doing too. And like, I love Marvel and DC stuff in concept, but I haven't kept up on it because it's just, like I said, there's so much of it. It's almost impossible. Like, it always is shocking to me when there's people out there that are like, you're not current on these 25 different series. Like, how do you have money for that? like I see people's pull boxes at my local shop and I'm just like, holy hell, like this must be your only hobby, because how else could you be buying that huge of a stack of comics every week? It's just, it's crazy
I'm
to
saying,
me.
On the whole, spiraling back inwards from like, so going from like, your Chews and, your, I mean, I know it's not exactly like the indie series, but reading a lot of like One Piece and Naruto and, things like Chew and like a little,
so indie.
and yeah, so indie.
Two of the biggest comics in the entire world. Yes, go on.
Y'all hot about anime.
Shut up, Jonah. But not really touching like a huge amount of like the mainstream stuff. Like I've read a lot of DC, and I have read some of their big stuff, but like I haven't read a lot of Superman. I've read barely any Spider-Man. This is my first Thor. I think I've ever read an Iron Man comic. So kind of spiraling back inwards, it is, I'd say on the whole, very, very good. Like it's nice to actually be like, oh, okay, wow. So like this is why people actually really enjoy these characters and these stories, because they are actually really quite good. This is awesome. Yeah.
It actually kind of restored my faith in Marvel after, I think the last one we reviewed was One More Day, which is one more day. It is like like that is the one most, like everyone considers to be the worst Spider-Man story arc.
Yeah.
And Ben
It's
picked
really
it just
bad.
because he's like, well, I wanted you to know what Zero is. So when you read a good Spider-Man comic, you'll have a basis for comparison.
Wow.
So it's awful. It's
Yeah.
so bad. It's definitely the worst comic I've ever read.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's
That's
not
hilarious
good.
in a bad way.
Yeah. But yeah, this actually just was like, wow. I know I don't know, we try and mix it up, but like for sure read this. I guess that's what we're trying to say.
Yep. Do it.
Nailed it. All right. Guys, where can people find you? Tim, let's start with you. Where can people find you?
The easiest place is probably Twitter. I'm at tim-lanning. That's where I will mention all the other things that I do.
When's Pope Zone coming back?
I don't know.
Season 2?
They're making a season 2, but I
hell
don't
yeah.
know if they've announced the release date yet.
Okay.
But
Is that a HBO or a Showtime joint?
That's an HBO. Yeah.
Okay,
You think
cool. I have
Showtime, but no,
I have
it's
HBO, so
Yeah.
I'm good on that front.
Yeah, rewatch.
You can watch and listen along.
Hell yeah.
yeah. Watch along with us.
I heard he
yeah,
likes Coke Zero, which is my favorite, so it's
yeah. At one point he gets dressed and "I'm Sexy and I Know It" plays. So if that gives
man.
What the fuck?
it's very. People should watch the show. It's not a good show, but people should watch it. It's weird as hell. It's very, very, very strange.
I'm intrigued.
Do you have any super secret cool projects that you want to give us a tease about, Tim? This is not a reference to anything. It's just a question.
The way you said it was like, "Oh fuck, what are we doing?"
Yeah. Do you remember that project we're working on together?
Yeah.
I'll be so offended if you don't.
You know, if you, we do the Drunks and Dragons do the blank, the podcast of blanks with Wizards of the Coast. So like whenever they release a new book, currently the podcast of Waterdeep, way back in September of 2018, for those of you listening 20 years from now. I assume, in the future we'll do more of those. Those are always fun. And that's on the Dungeon Delve feed on, for Wizards of the Coast. Also, the wife and I are planning eventually on doing a Left Behind podcast.
Ooh,
where we read all the
interesting.
Left Behind books.
Oh, the books. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, I've read / audiobooked pretty much all except for the last 1 or 2
Wow.
of the main series.
How many are there?
That's a good question. I'm not sure because I think there was initially like 7, 1 for each year of the tribulation, and then they
Right.
started making more because they're all black, right? And it's like, tribulation force, and then one of the final books, instead of being all black, is all white.
Ooh.
And so I didn't read that one. I think that one is after Jesus returns, and they're
Interesting.
literally living in paradise. So that one didn't seem as interesting to me.
There are 16 books.
Wow.
Yeah, because I think they planned for 7, made that 8th, and then they probably just kept going. I don't know I don't know if there's like prequels. I know there's Left Behind Kids, which is the kids version, which I read.
There's a
Kids Left Behind?
computer.
Yeah, there are.
There is a Left Behind computer game.
Oh, I played that. It's bad. Oddly enough.
Is that like a tactical shooter?
It's a Christian real-time strategy game, which is not a genre I'm familiar with.
Oh, there's dozens. No, you're trying to navigate through New York or whatever, and if you hear too much rock music, you'll get like too much sin and you'll die. It's it's not good.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how many of the Left Behind Kids books there are, but if you told me 70, I'd be like, that sounds about right.
Well, they were trying to beat Redwall for how many books are on the shelf. So
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Kieran, where can people find you?
Oh, yeah. You can find me on the internet. I'm at Mr. K_Bennett. You can also check out my Dungeons and Dragons podcast for Crits and Giggles. That is at for CNG Podcast on Twitter. As I said last week, Tim is on 2 episodes. Go listen to those. They're very good. And yeah, just please listen to my podcast.
Do that.
It's the rallying cry of white bearded guys everywhere.
Yes, exactly.
That's how we find each other. Jonah, where can people find you on the internet?
So I had this guy that I knew from when I used to write at SideQuesting, and he had a tweet that has always stuck with me where it was like, I will blow a guy if he doesn't have a podcast. Anyway, You can find me on Twitter at Spambot. You can find the show at Inks and Issues. And we don't just say, like, this episode's up. We also post, like, hey, check out this cool comic. It's on sale from Comixology or whatever. So, like, we try and give some suggestions on there. Also, you should go to patreon.com/inksandissues and support the show. We could really use some support, and we could unlock some really cool things like more podcasts, streaming of when we're recording. There's all kinds of cool stuff. Go check that out and join up and let us know what you want us to review. You can do that at certain tiers. You can even vote on what we review next.
Yeah.
So get it. Go get it. It's good. Anyway, it's getting late and we should probably call it, guys. Thank you, Tim, for coming on again.
Oh, anytime. Thank you so much for having me. It was fun.
And
thank you for coming on.
We'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye. I love you.